Hello, my name's Aviva, and today I'm going to be recommending some YA fantasies that I think will be amazing for younger readers. I'm down to read anything, whether it's middle grade, young adult, or adult. If the story intrigues me, I will try it out. But today I'm going to be sharing with you guys a couple of YA fantasy series that I absolutely loved, except I think were kind of made for the younger side of YA. YA is a massive genre, and there are a lot of younger YA as well as a lot of older YA. So today I'm going to be sharing a lot of the younger YA series that I think will be amazing if you are a younger reader and you're looking for some really amazing young adult fantasy series. So without further ado, let me just get straight into the books. So the first series I wanted to share with you guys is the Trial series by Amanda Hocking. So it's a collection of 3 books. It's Switch, Torn, and Ascend. And this is actually one of the first books that I read when I was in middle school that got me into reading fantasy. I absolutely love this series. Since middle school, I must have read it 5 or 6 times, so I really couldn't recommend this series more. It's one of my favorite of all time. But either way, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically about this girl who is 16 years old and she finds out that she's a changeling. So she was actually switched at birth. She is really a troll, and she was switched with a human baby so that she could grow up in the human world, and then when she gets old enough, she can come back to live with her trial family and bring back all the wealth from her adopted family. So either way, she had no idea she was a troll. Someone comes to collect her. She goes back to her fairy queen mother and finds out that she actually has all of these magical powers, and there is a war brewing between 2 trial species, and she is kind of smack in the middle of it. So it's a very interesting story. I absolutely love it. It basically has a little bit of politics, a little bit of war, a lot of romance. One of my favorite romances of all time is in this series, and basically it's an overall just amazing read if you are into fantasy and you're on the younger side of YA. Happens to be, I would recommend this to anybody because it's just such a good series. But in general, I think that the world overall is just geared towards a little bit of the younger crowd, and I think that if you are younger and trying to get into fantasy, or you're just looking for some good recommendations, then I would definitely recommend this series. So while we're on the topic of the Trial, I figured I should just quickly mention the other 2 series from the universe in case you end up reading the Trial series and really enjoying it. So basically, after Amanda Hocking wrote the Trial, she ended up making 2 more series. So she wrote the Canon Chronicles, which is a collection of 3 books, and in this series you're kind of following a different troll community with a whole different storyline. It obviously takes place after the events that happened in the Trial series, so you do hear a little bit about the people that you originally were following, but it has a whole different storyline, whole other set of characters, and you're kind of following a different type of troll living in a different type of community. They have different types of powers and different things going on. And then you've got the newest series, which is the Amti Origin series, and again, this is following a different type of troll, whole different set of characters, whole different storyline, but they are from the same universe, and there are overlapping characters that you hear about. So first the Trial series happens, then the Canon Chronicles happen, and then the Amti Origin series happens. So technically you should read them in chronological order, but you can also definitely pick up just one series if you end up looking them up and seeing that one sounds more interesting to you than the other. But I definitely recommend it starting with the Trial because in my opinion it is the best one from the world. But if you end up liking them, then there are 2 more series in this universe that I definitely recommend checking out because they were really good and they were great for younger readers. So the next series I wanted to talk about is the Iron Face series by Julie Kagawa. So this is a collection of 4 books, and it's basically about this girl who finds out that she's actually the daughter to this fairy king, and she's going to be the pawn in this deadly war. And there's also a forbidden romance going on with a fairy prince, and basically it's just a really good story about fairies in general. There's going to be wars, there's going to be romance, there's going to be magical things going on. And basically I think that this is a great series if you are on the younger side of YA and you're looking for some good recommendations about fairies, because I think that this series was really good and I really enjoyed it for what it is. But I'm 24 years old, and when I was reading it, I just felt a little bit too old for it. It was still really enjoyable, and I think that the story was absolutely amazing. I just felt a little bit too old for it, and that's why I think that it would be absolutely amazing for a younger reader, and that's why I'm putting it in this video. So the next series I wanted to talk about is the Cool Prince series by Holly Black. So this is a collection of 3 books, and it's another YA young adult fantasy story about fairies, and it's basically about this human girl who, when she was 7 years old, her parents were murdered and she gets taken to come live with the fairies. And ever since she's been living there, it's now 10 years later, and she's always just wanted to fit in with them. But fairies are immortal, immortal. They've got like all of these interesting powers and things like that. And basically she's never actually really fit in, but she's going to do anything that it takes to make her way in this fairy kingdom, because all she's ever wanted is basically to be fairy and to be accepted. So basically throughout this story, you're following her as like she gets involved in politics, and you know, she does what she needs to do to make her way in this world. And you're also going to be like seeing a lot of this prince who is living in this world, and he is very cruel. His name is Cardin, and eventually there is going to be a romance of sorts going on in this story. So I'm not really going to say much more. All I'm going to say is that it's a really good young adult fantasy series about fairies, and if it sounds like something up your alley and you are on the younger side of reading, then I really think that you are going to enjoy it, and I definitely recommend picking it up. So another book that I wanted to recommend is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. So this is actually a standalone, and it also has to do with fairies. It's basically about this girl who, she is a painter, and she basically draws this fairy, but the fairies aren't supposed to have emotions, and she kind of draws like sorrow in his eyes, and either way, like she really shouldn't have done that, and she's gonna get into a lot of trouble. So the fairy that she like painted ends up coming and taking her away so that she could like, you know, like go on trial for her crimes or something like that. So I don't know, it's kind of like an interesting story. It's very unique, and I really did enjoy it, but I also think that it is very much on the like younger side of YA, just because it's got like a little bit more of like that fantastical, like younger type of vibe to this story. But I thought it was really cute. I definitely recommend it, and it's a tiny little book. So if you're just looking for like a quick read and you are a younger fantasy reader, then I definitely recommend picking up, because I thought it was an adorable story, and I think it would be great for a younger reader. So the last series I wanted to talk about today is called The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. And this is actually a middle grade series, and it's about this girl who's 11 years old, and she's basically born on like the unluckiest day of the year. And therefore, because of that, like everything that goes bad in her town, from like heart attacks to hailstorms, is always blamed on her, because she's basically cursed. And she's also cursed that she's gonna die on her 11th birthday. But right before her 11th birthday, this mysterious man shows up and basically like whisks her away to this magical place called Nevermore, where she is basically like chosen to compete in this like magical trial to see if she can get accepted into this like interesting school of like magical kids. I don't really know. Either way, she's going to like compete in this trial, which is a really interesting thing to follow, and the whole world is very fantastical. I thought it was basically just an adorable story. I'm not even explaining it right, but basically I definitely recommend it if you're into middle grade or you are a young adult fantasy reader and you're looking for an amazing read, because I thought that this series was so unique, so adorable. I loved reading every second of it, and I believe that as she keeps writing it, this story is going to turn from middle grade to young adult, because in the first 3 books, you're following her as she's 11 years old, and basically she's going to like, you know, try to get into this school, and then the next 3 books is following her as she's like turning older, and you're gonna follow her like throughout the years of her education, kind of like Harry Potter. And like the first year, you're following him when he's like 11 years old, and then like you end this series when he's like 17. So I believe that she's doing that with this series. Like she's starting off with an 11-year-old, and she's going to slowly make her like grow up older and older, and the story is going to turn from middle grade to young adult. So either way, I know that the series is not completed, and it's like going to keep going, and I just think that it is a great series that I definitely recommend, especially if you are interested in middle grade and young adult fantasy. So either way, that is all the books that I'm going to be recommending today for YA series that I think are going to be great for younger readers. So either way, I'm curious to know if you enjoyed this video, if you liked the books that I recommended to you guys. Have you read any of them? Do you plan to add any of them to your TBR? Do you want to see more recommendations from me that have to do with like YA fantasy series for younger readers? Because I actually have a lot more I could have recommended to you guys today. I just chose a couple of my favorites. So let me know if you'd like me to make a part 2 of this video. I'd be very happy to do it. I always love hearing what you guys want to see from me. So let me know down in the comment section below. But either way, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button, because it would really put a smile on my face. And like always, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, enjoy reading.